Okay, አሁን ደግሞ የምናየው ስለ graphical user interface basics ነው. So as we discussed in our last class, we have said that to build any mobile application, we need to utilize two sorts of scripting. First, we need to utilize extensible markup language for creating the graphical user interface. And then we need to utilize Java for writing the click or handling the user interaction. Okay, so first let's see about the graphical user interface part, and then we will move to the Java part. So as you know, XML stands for Extensible Markup Language, and which allow us to define our own tag easily. And yeah, of course, I hope you are very familiar with HTML tags. And the same thing holds here. And for example, this is a typical syntax of using tag in XML. So you need to give a name, tag name, and at the end, you need to close it like this. Okay? So tag name, then you need to close it here. For example, if this tag name is about button, you need to say /button. Okay, this is one option. So in between, you need to define or describe the property of that specific tag. For example, you wanted to give some specific color to your button. You may say background color is equal to red. Background color is equal to something like that. Those are called attributes. So attribute needs to have a name and it needs to have a value. Most of the time, you need to provide a value inside double quote. Okay? So you can list as many attributes as you like for a specific tag you are going to use. This can be a color, height, it can be a width, depending on the specific tag you are going to use. What is important here is that you need to close all tags that you open somewhere else, okay, like this. Or sometimes you may also not need to rewrite this one. So you can close it at the end of the last attribute after specifying this value. Okay, like this. These both mean the same thing. Okay, but this one is more readable. The first one is more readable compared to the second one. So that's the first rule you need to know. So if you don't know this one, do not run to write the code. Otherwise, you will come up with hundreds of errors. I don't want to hear those kind of errors, okay? The other one is like, if you are using a nested tags, you need to close the recent one first. For example, take a look at this. We have tag one. Maybe this can be a frame for your GUI. Inside that, you may have a button. So before closing the frame, you need to close the tag for the recent one, like this. Here is a tag one. This one is a second. And then we have some content or attributes that describe about tag two. So you need to close tag two first. And finally, you need to close the last one. The first one, I mean. If you make it like this, this is completely wrong. The recent one must be closed first. Okay? You need to do it like that. This is a second rule in using XML. I'm not going to repeat that. Importantly, at the beginning of every XML file, you need to specify or write this line of code. So your XML file must begin with this one. So with a question mark, and you need to provide a question mark at the end. In between, you need to specify the version. So every time Google update the version of XML, so it can be version 1.0, 1.2, and the like. And if you want to write, or if your graphical user interface consists of non-Latin letters, you need to specify the encoding structure like UTF-8. For example, if your GUI context some text that was written in Amharic, that's not a Latin letter, you need to use UTF-8. So this is not mandatory depending on the application we are going to build, okay? So UTF, አማርኛ፣ ቻይንኛ ምናምን ሲሆን እቺን እንጨምራታለን ማለት ነው። I think Somali use Latin, yes? In your case, it's okay. So that's the description. And again, actually, we do have two classes of XMLs files in our code. The first one, we can simply say a container. Container. Inside a container, you need to specify XML namespace. The naming that we are going to use for your tag. So typically, you are going to use this one. You don't need to change this one. For example, you need to say XML namespace Android. You need to provide this one. Provide it as it is. That's a standard. Because during the APK file generation, Android will utilize this information to translate your code to that specific APK file. Okay, so you need to provide this one only once in your code. At the top one, okay, you need to provide this one. That's the standard. So typically, it looks like this one. So first one is this one, version and encoding, and then this is a parent of the container, the layout that contains your entire buttons, text box, and the like. ሁሉንም አቅፎ የሚይዘው ዋናው መጀመሪያ ላይ ዲፋይን እናደርጋለን። ስለዚህ በተኖች ምናምን እዚህ ጋር ይሄንን ኢንተር በማድረግ ነው የምንደረድረው ማለት ነው። If you have a button, any other things, you need to put inside this one. That's why we can call this one a container or a frame, photo frame. Okay, that's your frame. How you are going to arrange the elements? For example, here we are choosing linear layout. That means elements are going to be arranged what? Linearly. The first button you create will be put at the top. The second will come later. The third one will move down. You don't need to tail, okay? Because you already mentioned that use a linear strategy to order my elements. And actually, this one will utilize one important method. It says orientation. Are you going to order them horizontally or vertically? So you need to provide that parameter here. Okay, if you say it's vertical, those elements are going to be arranged vertically. We will demonstrate that later on. If we change this one to horizontal, it will become horizontal. Of course, you need to, for every tag that we are going to use, this is common. Width and height. Anything that has no height and width will not be visible on your graphical user interface. You need to provide. If you fail to do that, that button will be not, don't expect to see it on the screen. Okay, so you need to provide this one. Match parent means it's going to use what? It will match the entire screen. Okay, if you say wrap content, it will automatically adjust itself. So that's the core concept. And then we need to know the concept that's called view. Anything that is visible on the screen is called view. It can be a button, it can be image, it can be scroll bar, it can be a radio button, combo box. We can collectively call them view in XML. Okay, view ነው የሚባሉት ማለት ነው። በአጠቃላይ ቴክስት ቪው የሚባለው ምንድነው? ቴክስት ለማሳየት ብቻ። That's a text view. Or that's called J level የሚባለው ማለት ነው። ጃቫ ላይ level. For example, you want to say, okay, first name, and the user is going to put his name on the box that is next to or in front of the first name. So if you want to convey some information to the user, you need to use a text view. It is not clickable. You can't click on the text view, okay? That's what makes it different from button. Button is clickable, yes? If you click on the button, it will take some action. Either it will take you another page or show you some dialogue or close you that form. Yes? So that's a button. So we need to be specific. Depending on our specific goal, we can choose what kind of view do we need for our problem. So it can be a button, checkbox, radio button, seek bar, that's something that you can scroll or drag like this, okay? Seek bar and like the one that used to increase the brightness or decrease the brightness in your phone, okay? Yeah, seek bar ነው የሚባለው ማለት ነው። On off toggle button እንላለን። toggle button on off, for example, like Wi-Fi on off እንደምናደርገው ማለት ነው. This is called toggle button, and the last one is called spinner, or the so-called in Java, probably we call this one as a combo box. ወይ ደግሞ ሊስት ቪው የሚባለው ማለት ነው። spinner እንላለን። So some XML attributes that we need to know. So attributes needs to have some sort of value. And you can also specify like text style, bold, text style, italic. For example, here we are creating one text view. Take a look at it. The text view needs to have some unique ID. We can utilize this ID to establish a link between this text view and the Java code. Without ID, you can't establish a link. For example, user writes something and you want to allow the user to log into your web page or some other website. So you will reference it using this ID. So this is going to be unique. You need to give a unique value. Okay? And again, you need to provide the widths and height. In case you need it, you can provide a background color. You can provide the hash code for that. And the text slide, you may say bold, italic, or Times New Roman. You can provide anything that you like here. And at the end, you need to close it. But this must be written between your layouts, okay? Yeah, that's the ID, something that's unique, and you can read the detail from the description later on. So if you want to reference specific view, you need to use this kind of code. You may say at ID inside the view, at ID then show count. For example, if you are going to use a relative layout or relative placement of view on your GI, you can utilize this concept. Yeah, so root view, of course, container like root, something that holds all your buttons. That's called root views. So this can be a linear layout. I think I have a picture. Yes, that's good. So if you want to, this is going to be your root. Inside your root, you need to order those elements either horizontally or vertically, like this one. So this is called linear layout horizontal. You are arranging elements horizontally. This is vertical. So for example, if you write like this linear layout, orientation is equal to vertical, you are creating something that looks like this one. If it is vertical. በዚህ መልክ ይደረድራል ማለት ነው vertically. ሆሪዞንታል ከሆነ ደግሞ ይሄድና ስክሪኑ ሲያልቅ ነው ወደዚህ የሚመለሰው። ስክሪኑ ሲያልቅ ወደዚህ ይመለሳል ማለት ነው። So yeah, the same thing, match parent, carry this one, and this again an explanation. And you can also provide additional attributes like this padding, like padding and the margin in Microsoft Word. Yes, it will do the same thing. Spacing, yes, padding inside no margins. You want the more space one, and the outside no margin. So you can specify margin top, margin left, margin right, margin bottom. Yes, the typical word that we use. So you can do that. Padding top, padding bottom. And you can create something like this one. Maybe you can practice this one later on. What type of layout do you use to create this kind of graphical user interface? So this can እንደምታዩት it contains horizontal ማለት vertical ማለት አይደለ? ስለዚህ nested ነው የምንጠቀመው. Yes, nest ማድረግ አለብን. How many layouts are required? Maybe you can practice this one later. So actually, I already provide the code here, so you can practice. Okay, the code to use this one. Yeah, the same thing for this one. And relative layout is also another thing. The first one is a linear layout. In this case, you can place a control relative to another one. So in this case, you need to keep track of the ID of each control or view that you have. For example, child one is relative to the top left corner of the screen. So you need to say top left corner. Then child two is relative to the center of the screen. Yes, this is the center. If you say below child two, it will create child three here. Relatively ማለት ነው እዚህ ጋር child two ካወቅ እኛ ኮዱን ስንጽፍ below child two ካል ኤሌመንቱን እዚህ ጋር ያመጣልናል ማለት ነው። So this is called relative layout. But if you delete this one, what will happen to the third layout? ችግሩ ይሄ ነው። yes ይጠፋል ቦታ ያጣል አይደል ቱን ዲሊት ካረግ ሶስት የት ነው የሚገባው because you already mentioned that child 3 is positioned below child 2 relative ግን ምንም ጣጣ የለው linear layout ሲሆን linearly arrange ስለሚያደርግ ይኖር ስፔስ ካገኘ ይቀመጣል so you need to use these kind of keywords or attributes for positioning an element in relative layout. The first one is to left of, to the right of, center of, align parent of, bottom of, okay? So this is structure and you can also utilize grid layout like to create some sort of calculator, table layout. So these are some of the core topics. And the same things go for the button. Button needs to have a width and a height. Probably you need to use a wrap content. So, and you need to write something on top of this one. And you can write an on-click event inside your control like this. You need to add additional attributes like on submit. You need to give a name, unique name for your button click, so that you can establish a link between your button and the Java code. Okay, when user click on this button, do something here. You can do something here. Yani logic is the same thing goes for the checkboxes. ተመሳሳይ ኮንሰፕት ነው የምንጠቀመው radio button, toggle button, turn on, turn off. So in this case, you need to use a switch. Okay. If you say switch, it is going to create something like this one, something that toggles between on and off. And you can write a Java code for this one like this. Yeah, for the text input, you need to say like the so-called text box, you can use edit text. That means editable text. And you need to give an ID for that. It is simple and you can do the remaining part. And for an editable text, you can provide so many types of attributes like maximum lines. If you make these two, it will create 2-line editable text box. Maximum length. If you want to limit the number of input that is going to be provided by the user, you can limit it by typing maximum length. So after a user types 5, it will automatically lock that specific edit text. And you can also provide the input type. Input type can be a number. So automatically, if you set it to number, then instead of QWERTY keyboard, Android will automatically pop up a number between 0 to 9. If you make this one text, QWERTY keyboard will come. If you type email, and .com, something like will come here, okay? That's the way to how to adjust editable text in your GUI design. So those are some of those tricks. And yeah, if you say input type is equal to phone, the phone number image table no የሚመጣው text ካልክ ደግሞ ይሄ ነው የሚመጣው ማለት ነው ልዩነቱ ይሄ ነው input type. And there are also some style related attributes like background. What is the kind of background color we are going to use? Text color, text size, text style, እነዚህን provide ማድረግ እንችላለን. And again, image design ማድረግ ካስፈለገን image አይነት እንጽፋለን. This is called actually image view ይባላል. Image ከሆነ we need to use image view. Then provide the path to your image like at drawable, because we will place our image inside drawable folder. So you say at drawable, then provide the file name. So automatically it will get that specific picture. First, you need to copy paste your image to drawable folder, which is located under resource folder. So you need to use add. Okay, add image view like. Yeah, you can add different types of control. You can also do some adjustment by changing the content of your GUI programmatically by using find view button. And the manifest file, we have already mentioned that. And then maybe in the next slide or presentation or video, we will take a look at how to implement those concepts that we discussed today. Okay.